Hello and welcome in to the M Squared Leadership Conversation. This is a space where we talk honestly about real challenges that leaders face and what it actually takes to lead well in the real world. I'm Michael Hales.
And I'm Michelle Hales.
Welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us. So, Michelle, generational differences are a big topic today, and we focused on them in our first episode a few weeks ago, and we want to circle back around to that today because I know Gen Z is something that you're passionate about studying and understanding more, and so we want to spend some more time today discussing one of your favorite topics, and particularly some of the misperceptions about Gen Z that may be out there in the business community, among leaders. They feel a certain way and have certain ideas about Gen Z that may not quite be completely accurate. So let's talk about that a little bit today. First off, kind of general perception. I think it might be fair to say that Gen Z gets a little bit of a bad rap among a lot of managers of older generations. We have certain ways that I'm including myself in that, we kind of have certain ideas about them, certain ways that we feel about them. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned before, but I definitely recommend The Future Begins with Z by Dr. Tim Elmore. He did a survey and I may have even mentioned it in our first conversation about this, but he mentioned that he had surveyed a couple of thousand older generation employers. And
that would be us, Gen Xers and Boomers, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was asking them questions about Gen Z, how they felt. And overwhelmingly, they had a negative emotion or response initially when they were talking about Gen Z.
So right out of the gate, Gen Z, and I'm not here to poor old Gen Z, but you're kind of starting off behind the eight ball a little bit if the general perception about you is negative, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting, I think about what if I'm, a stack of resumes sitting on somebody's desk and I'm in that stack of resumes. Okay. And you've got somebody leafing through and they come to your generation and they immediately feel negative, a negative emotion about you.
Like you almost go into a different
stack. You almost do. And it's a little bit frustrating. I would not want to be led by those people that have negative emotions about me. And I think that's one thing that we can learn to do a little better. I think every generation has to adjust their leadership style based on, the followers, who they're leading as they come into their flock, their care. And one of the things that we as Gen X has to do for Gen Z is we have to switch from being a gatekeeper to a guide. So think of it this way. A gatekeeper is at the gate and says, you have to come through me before you can get over there. And a guide would be, hi, welcome. I'm about to open the gate and we're going to walk through together and I'm going to show you what it's like to walk this path.
So this is like a completely different vibe between gatekeeper and guide.
For sure. And I think we might have mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating here for anyone who didn't get to see the first conversation. Gen Z craves to be coached, not managed.
Okay.
And so when Gen X was coming on the scene, and we had boomers and the traditional generation as our bosses, we knew to expect, and they expected of us, just show up, shut up, sit down, do your job, don't give us any lip. And we were like, okay with that, because that's the way we had been raised. But now Gen Z has been raised to
very
very
differently.
protected, very nurturing kind of thing. And so that's kind of what they expect in the workplace as well. And we're like, well, you're adults now. You should have gotten the memo by now to go ahead and jump in here and switch gears. It doesn't matter how you were raised. We need you just to show up, shut up, sit down, and get the work done. Well, they're not going for it. They're not buying it. Gen Z's not buying it. So it's fascinating, isn't it?
It is fascinating. And I go back to where we started this conversation, the bad rap that they get right out of the gate. It's stereotyping, isn't it?
For sure. And I mean, we all do it to some degree, right?
With every generation. It's a human thing.
For sure. And the thing about myths is that there's an element of truth to all of them, you know, but that's not the complete truth. So what we want to do today is Dr. Elmore's got 6 myths here in his book.
Let's go ahead and get into them.
And I would love to just talk about them and try to dispel them and acknowledge what little truth there may be about them, but get to the real truth.
Okay. So let's dive right in. Myth number 1, they don't listen because they don't care. So we're not only making an observation about them that they don't listen, but we're ascribing a reason why, because they don't care. Let's unpack it.
Yeah. So it's easy to make that assumption, especially for us that are a little bit older, that they're not listening. And it's true of every generation that there are going to be some, people that are not listening because they don't care.
This is not a brand new thing.
Not a brand new thing. Not at all. Not at all. But, it really depends on circumstance is what Dr. Elmore was finding this, in his research. And with me raising a Gen Z and him being married, he was a cusper, but being married to a Gen Z.
The cusper means he was on the
He's a millennial.
Millennial, right on the edge of Gen
but he
Z.
has a lot more Gen Z qualities than he probably really wants to admit. But he's married to Gen Z, and as I've watched them navigate and going into their careers, they kind of pick and choose what they really want to hear, because they don't always put stock in everything that you care about. Maybe a little different than what they care about.
I'm hearing values differences.
There's values. And on the job side, and when it all comes down to it, you may have core values that you share, but they're showing up differently.
Okay.
So Gen Z or Gen X, we may say that the values are going to show up in promptness, in being, how many hours of the day you spend doing your work versus being on your phone. We may judge a little differently what the values actually look like, but we value that the work gets done. They value that the work gets done, but they don't want to have to look busy, when they're not actually doing the work. They're, much more true to being authentic of what they're actually doing versus we've learned to look busy because we've had, the whip kind of over us a little bit.
So what I'm hearing in this is if the value is dedication to the job or the craft or whatever, then for us, it looked a certain way because of the way we were nurtured and everything that was going on in society at the time that we came up.
The technology we had at our disposal.
So their dedication is maybe still there, but it shows up in kind of a different way.
Yeah. They don't hold to, the same traditions. Of the traditional values of put 8 hours in a day kind of thing. They're like, let's get the work done. Well, when the work's done, why can't we go home and still be paid the same amount of money? They're big on how much money they're getting paid.
Okay.
So we'll get to that in a little bit. But the truth is, they're all unique. And we can't, take any one individual and, put something over them that this is the way that you are. But it's really, we have to communicate to them that we're hearing them and that we're valuing them.
Love it. So I was looking at some of this content in the book, which you kindly shared with me. And some of the part of the explanation that Dr. Elmore gave here is that they don't, our older generations have kind of lost a little credibility with Gen Z because it's very obvious to them that we've made mistakes.
So
and we've kind of messed things up and created a broken system in a lot of ways.
When you look at it, we have lost credibility because there's been a moral breakdown in a lot of ways. There's been corruption in what should have been trusted institutions for them. And that could be religious, it could be business, the banks going under, corruption in, our politics, even in, our religious settings. There's been all the corruption and the immorality. There's, the broken marriages. There's seeing parents not plan well with their finances and having to work longer than normal to even get to retirement and not. So they've seen a lot of things where, look, mom, dad, you didn't get it right exactly. And
why
world
should I
at
do
large.
It exactly your way and just take everything you're telling me on face value when I kind of see the evidence here.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's move on to myth number 2. I think we could talk about this for hours.
We could.
Okay, myth 2. They're lazy. Gen Z are lazy and entitled because they have no clue about life's hardships. Give us the truth here.
Yeah, so, digging into the myth just a little bit, it's true that they do have a high sense of agency, and probably that looks like a high sense of entitlement as well. It's because of how much they know, what's on their phone, what they walk into the job actually knowing. And they don't want to have to, earn their way and pay their dues and that sort of thing. And they don't want to because they're looking at you and you can't even get that PDF sent right. And they're like, I know more than you. So what do you mean pay my dues? Kind of thing. So there is a high sense of, agency that they bring to the table, and they want to be valued for that. They really want to be valued for what I can bring to the table right now, not devalued because of my age.
Okay.
And so, there's the myth there that they are very entitled and expect a lot. That's not the case when you step back and look at it from the perspective of what they're actually going to give you.
Okay.
So when you think about it, people that have a sense of entitlement, you think, well, you're walking in here and demanding things that you don't deserve.
Okay.
And they're saying, hey, I need you to break down the systems that you're actually, have in force and see that I don't have to go through the same system, and I can give you things that you are not expecting from me on day one.
So it's not so much a sense of entitlement as it is an acknowledgement of their own intrinsic value that they bring, and an understandable desire to be treated and compensated accordingly.
Exactly. So if they can walk on the job and have certain skill sets already built into their system and their skill set ready to go,
and they do
with a lot of things, they want to be compensated for that. They don't want to be put stuffing envelopes when they can help with programming or whatever. And a lot of times I think about the law firm, because I've worked in a law firm before, and a lot of people would start out in the mailroom and you move your way up, to different positions if you didn't have a law degree. And sometimes if you did have a law degree, they would put you through the steps. But now, Gen Z not approve of that. They're like, I have a law degree. I also have, all of this behind me. Put me doing work worthy of my time. So that's where they are.
Okay.
But if you think about it, every generation has felt entitled to some degree.
Sure.
Our grandparents never thought they were going to be able to order food and have it delivered to their door within 30 minutes. And, internet and air conditioning. They didn't demand all these different things. Now we're like, I literally where I work, if the air conditioner goes out in this Mississippi summer heat and it gets to be 80 something degrees, we get to go home because it would be just too hot for us to stay here and work. That wasn't a thing. It's like open the windows, put a box fan in the window and go. So even our generation has entitlements that, we feel entitled to things, work environment, work situations that our grandparents
they just
never expected.
Different because the times are so different.
So I think it's important that we realize that for every generation, we're going to have to adjust our leadership thinking, the way that we lead, not the values, but the way that we lead people is going to change, and there's nuance to it for every new generation that enters the workforce. Two
recurring themes throughout this conversation, and the last one, as I think back on it, that keep coming back to me are, number one, none of this is new.
Right.
It's the same thing. Older generations have always had trouble accommodating younger generations. And we have to do that because time inevitably marches on and they're going to have their day in the sun, so to speak. And our generation is going to eventually fall away and they will replace us. And that's just the way life works.
For sure.
And then the second thing is, I don't remember what the second thing was, but anyway, that's one good thing. Let's move on to myth number 3, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
Number 3, they don't trust authorities because they consume fake news. Again, an observation and we're taking liberties here with assuming the reason why.
Yeah. So, there is a lot of fake news out there, and not so much our generation. Gen X is pretty skeptical. We were probably the most skeptical generation, or when the skepticism really began. But back in the boomers' day, and maybe even one generation before, if somebody was on TV and they were saying something to you, we trusted that personality.
Walter Cronkite.
Yes. And it was, if somebody wrote something in a book, then it meant something. Or if it was announced on the radio, then it was the truth. And there was more, I hate to say this, but in my opinion, probably more integrity in the world at the time. Now I just think about all the elders, that generation that's being bombarded and being scammed because they believe somebody when they call and say, I'm from Medicare, give me your account number and I'm going to give you some extra Medicare benefits. I'll put it in your, or your Social Security and that sort of thing. And a lot of times they're fooled by that. And Gen Z is like, what? How can you believe that? So I'm supposed to trust you?
There's a level of skepticism in this generation that we, and especially our parents, just can't get our heads around.
For sure. And I think, so that's where it comes in, but that's not altogether true. So that's the myth, that they won't listen to any authority because they consume fake news. There's a lot of fake news out there. But if we'll go back to what we were just talking about, they are more concerned about the actual mistakes they're seeing in our leadership generation. Our generation being Gen X. They're seeing the moral failures, the bankruptcy, the banks failing, the not being able to get a house because of the mortgage crisis.
And so the whole do it my way thing kind of rings hollow to them, and understandably so.
Exactly. So it's not about the fake news necessarily, although, I can let you know that my son, who's a cusper, gets tickled at me because sometimes I believe a video that's AI.
Yeah.
I just get tickled about it, and he can spot the artificial intelligence right away, like immediately. He knows when it's been artificially created versus that was a video that actually happened. My eye is not as trained on it. I didn't grow up with it, so it's not as trained. And so he isn't necessarily going to believe me when I send him a video and say, oh, look at what really happened, because so there's an element of truth to all the myths.
Right.
But the truth is, that Gen Z's point of view is that it's more about they see the elders failing to live out and practice what they preach.
Okay.
And that's what they're craving more, is just seeing the authenticity from their leaders. They're looking for true, authentic leaders that are admitting when they're wrong, admitting when they got it wrong, saying, let's find a better way to do it, and not being demanding that we've got to do it my way, even though my way didn't really work that well.
They kind of have a point.
They do have a point. They have a point.
Myth number 4. They are fragile because of social media's influence.
Yeah. So, we can't deny that social media has played a huge part of their fragility.
They grew up with
it. But I would say, and I really agree with what Dr. Elmore has here in the book, the truth really is more about how we protected them. We went into protection mode versus pushing them out there, pushing the baby bird out the nest and letting them see what they can do. We protected them, we let them fly around on our backs instead of, letting them do it on their own. We hovered, we were helicopter parents. So in this particular myth, of course, social media has played a part because they've been bombarded with it, but the true fragility has come from parents not letting them go strong, go hard, make mistakes, gain confidence from your experiences, and when you fail, and being able to get up and, go again in a safe environment.
It's a little ironic if you think about it, because the things that we Gen Xers, the things that we would say made us what we are, like learning how to, going through the school of hard knocks and being out ripping and running and being on our own, and it made us tough and it made us whatever. We deprived our own children, the Gen Zers now, of going through those same formative experiences, but yet we complain because they're not tough like we are.
We want to blame it on external, but most of the time it is external circumstances like social media and that sort of thing. But most of the time it is in the way that they were raised. And as a generation, Gen X did not do an excellent job of raising Gen Z with grit. There's lots of things I think that we did well. I want to give us a pat on the back where we deserve it. But for the grit part of it, and for them not being so fragile, that, we played a part in that.
I did note that one of the things that Dr. Elmore said about this is, with genuine relationship building and good training, they can move from fragile to agile. Do you have any thoughts on that?
For sure. How many times have we seen it where a young adult can't hardly function? Like, they will literally be afraid to make a phone call, to make a dentist appointment, or they'll whatever. But if they get in a nurturing environment, they start growing, they start learning what they can do, they start gaining their confidence. And that has certainly happened, with our son and our daughter-in-law as they've moved into different jobs and different career settings. And they are so happy, like they're exhausted, but they're also so happy to find out what they could actually do.
Yeah.
And so it does matter that it's a nurturing environment, of course, an environment where they can feel safe to try to do those things. But absolutely, I love to see that transformation and that confidence start building and they become super agile in their skill set.
It's been very gratifying to
Yes,
see with
for sure.
With our own kids, and they're killing it, by the way.
Absolutely.
All right, myth number 5: they are not loyal and won't do grunt work.
Well, they don't love the grunt work.
And we didn't either.
No,
We did it anyway.
we did. They hate that term, pay your dues. I mean, they really
okay.
do. That's where they're like, but I'm bringing something to the table already. Give me some respect. Give me, let me get to it. Let me start doing. So, and I mean, you've heard that from your son.
Absolutely.
But they want to know that the grunt work is attached to the meaning of what the job is supposed to be about.
Okay,
So
so
I
grunt
think
work not just for its own sake and not just for the sake of paying dues,
and
but because it's necessary and somebody has to do it, and maybe that's your role for
right.
now.
For now, it's because it's what makes the company run. It's what gets us done. But they want to know that they're going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that it's there's an end in sight, that it's for a short period of time. They want to know that it's not for the reason of hazing.
I love
that.
that.
Because that's demeaning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dr. Elmore talked about loyalty in this section and kind of debunking this myth. What can you tell us about their expectations and desires for like mutual loyalty?
Absolutely. And I keep going back to, someone in our family that has recently taken a job where it kind of came in as an upper management and the relationship that he's having with his manager. Mm-hmm. And the fact that even though this was a brand new career field for him, that they did let him come in upper management because leadership skills transfer no matter what the job is. And they recognize that. So that was huge. But also, even though he knew nothing about it, his manager is giving him props and praise along the way. And this person is now killing it for the manager. And so now they have like this bond where I'm doing this for you, you're doing this for me. You gave me respect. I want to work harder for you. I want to kill it for you now. Like I really want to do everything. And now, this person is like asking for feedback and what can I do better? And I did it this way. Is there a better way? And so as that kind of relationship is given, they dig in even deeper. And I can tell you, I know 100% that this person is not being paid what they feel they're worth, but they're willing to stick it out. And they even are looking for other jobs, of course, because they need to make more money. But I've heard, this person say, but I don't want to leave him in a lurch. Like I want to make sure that
doesn't sound like a sense of entitlement.
Right. That I'm not going to burn any bridges, that I'm giving him his money's worth for what he's invested in me.
Doesn't sound like disloyalty.
And that's not the only time that I've heard that. It's not just like an isolated incident. So they're for people that have invested in them, they feel that connection and that bond, which we all do. Every generation does. When they're nurtured, when people are nurtured, you think about people that have been your mentors. You're loyal to them.
Yeah, that's not a generation,
right?
A generational thing necessarily. That's a human thing.
For sure.
We can all relate to that, I think.
No doubt.
Myth number 6.
Okay.
They're not serious about work like Gen Xers and Boomers. I love the comparison to like we always
They put us in there really hard, didn't they? So for sure, I had a sense when I started on my job when I was just 16 years old and I went into the workforce of wanting to please my boss. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to make sure I got all the tasks done. I was, wanted to work with integrity. They want those same things, but they're not willing to do the things they're going to question the ways that we do them.
Okay.
So they're much more interested in how can we get the work done in the most efficient amount of way, and the most efficient amount of time, effort, all of those things. And so the fact that they're not serious about work, they want to get the work done. Mm-hmm. They just don't necessarily want to do it the way that you've set it up and in the framework that you've set it up to be done.
And it seems like that ties back into the mistrust that they have for the older generations because they've seen the warts mm-hmm. that we've had. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's every generation thinks that the previous ones made big mistakes and now they're going to come along and correct those things. Sure. Is there some of that's going on as well?
I believe so. And even the values, like they keep wanting to go back to what I really value about the work. Do I care about the work? Do I care about the cause? But they don't want to necessarily just do things the way that we've always done them, because they don't necessarily think that your value system about it is correct, or that the way that you're going about it is the best way. And they want to be heard. And, like every generation, you think about the hippie generation, they came along and like all is love. So they wanted to change the whole dynamic of, the value system. They wanted to get away from, it's all about the money and the man and all the things. Every generation has something to say. Mm-hmm. And this generation, I think, has gotten it right by saying, wait a minute, is there a better way to do this? And can we do it in a more efficient way? Are you clinging to things just for tradition's sake?
And really, as leaders, we should be interested in listening to that.
We should be interested in it. But we have a hard time because we are Gen Xers who were raised to do mm-hmm. as you were told. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking that's good enough for the next generation. Just trust me. I've done it. I've already done it this way.
I know best. Mm-hmm. Listen to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I know that Dr. Elmore gives 3 big questions that Gen Zers have and mm-hmm. that they're trying to answer as they move into the workplace and find their place in their career and their jobs. Do you want to talk about those a little bit? The first one was, who am I?
Yeah, who am I? So when in the workforce in general is kind of where I'll keep it, but they want to know that they have status on a team. They want to know, they're trying to figure out, do I add value here? So they want to know, am I esteemed for who I am? And that's where they want to know, what can I bring to the table? So that's the first question, who am I? They're trying to figure out who they are and what they're actually bringing to the table. And they want that level of respect and being esteemed by their peers and knowing that they're adding value.
I think we all want that.
We all do.
That's not again, Generation Z only thing.
No, but as for Gen X especially, we would squish that down.
Yes.
We would stay in our place instead of kind of demanding it.
We were trained to be that way.
It's all
we were brought up to be that way. Gen Z were not brought up to squish it down.
No. We were asking them how they felt at every turn, weren't we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right. Question 2, where do I belong?
Yeah. So, and in the workforce, they want to know, do they have respect from their colleagues? Do I have the respect of others, even though I'm young? So do I belong here? Or am I being just pushed in a corner because of my age? They want to know that, hey, it's okay that you're, 24. Come on in here. I want to know what you have to say, and to know that they actually belong.
Love that. Number 3, what difference do I make?
They crave a recognition for the value that they add. Mm-hmm. So they want to make a difference, and they crave being acknowledged for the value that they're having. Why am I here, and what difference do I really make?
Great.
Yep.
Michelle, this has been a fantastic
It's so
conversation. We've gone over these 6 myths
Yeah.
about Gen Z, and we've kind of, I think, dismantled them
Yeah,
piece by piece. And, you know, as with all myths, there's some kernel of truth there, but a lot of times they're way overblown.
Yeah, for sure.
In the way they, you know, they play out.
Yeah. And I would just love if there's any Gen Z viewers, I would love for you just to drop a comment about anything that rang true. And also let us know if we said something that you feel like, you know, doesn't ring true. And you would like to kind of put your thoughts in there, and we'll rethink things and
if we're
make
getting
some
it wrong,
corrections.
don't just let us continue to be wrong. Help us out.
We want to hear you.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of you for spending a few minutes with us here in this M Squared Leadership Conversation. Remember, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask better questions.
Yes.
So until next time, stay curious, lead well, and let's keep the conversation going.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.